Question 15 is an interesting question. I give you the answers first. 30 cm, 28 rings. What's so interesting about this question? I remember very clearly 2020, my P6 students, in 2020, after they left the exam hall, right, they texted me and said, sure, this year the long answer question never test number pattern. I found it quite strange that there was no number pattern tested. So it turns out it's not that there was no number pattern question. It's that when you have a number pattern question staring at you in the face, you don't recognize it. This is a number pattern question. This is a number pattern question. Why is it a number pattern question? It has to do with how you divide the figure. Now, you don't necessarily have to do it as a number pattern, but it will help you to visualize certain things. In the first ring, you know that the length is 9. Very straightforward. But what about from the second ring onwards? There is actually a consistent pattern that you can see if you do something like this. Now, there are several different ways to draw the pattern. So the way that I'm doing it is just one way, but you could have done it in a different way. We know that this is 9 cm, right? So that is your first ring. What about the second ring onwards? What is the increment? Do you see why this is a number pattern question now? What kind of pattern is this? This is your constant increase pattern. After the first pattern, so if I were to draw out a table to represent the information, okay, I'm not saying you must draw out a table. I'm just showing you that it's a number pattern. So this is the number of ring. At one ring, your, what do they call this? Distance. The first ring, the distance is 9 cm. From the second ring onwards, this is 16. This is 23. This is 30. If you draw it out on the diagram itself, you will see it. And that's why when they give you a diagram, it's for a reason. Correct or not? Based on this, you represent the information. What do you realize? Plus 7, plus 7, plus 7. It is a number pattern question. Okay, so make use of the diagram, go and draw it. If you are wondering why it's plus 7, it's because if this entire distance is 9, this distance over here is 2. That's why it's plus 7. Because you are subtracting the overlap between the two bands or the two rings. And that's why it's +7 only. Okay. So distance from the first ring to the bottom of the fourth ring, like I said, if you draw out the table, you will get the answer. Ring 4 is 30 cm. And from here, how to find part B? Ironically, if you understand that this is a number pattern question, you will know how to do part B. Correct? Working backwards. So the distance from the first ring to the last ring is 198 cm. So when you work backwards, what will you do? Two ways of doing it. Either you take 198 cm, you minus away the first pattern, which is in this case 9. Right? So this will give you 189. When you divide, you will find the number of intervals. Your number of intervals will be 189 divided by 7. Okay? The diagrams are surprisingly very close to scale. Proportionally, I guess. The reason why they will be close to scale is because they use software to draw. So they input the proportion. That's why they look proportional. But anyway, why you distract me? So 189 divided by 7 to give you 27. But remember that this is not the number of this is not the number of rings. This is the number of intervals. You know that to find the number of rings from the pattern, you need to +1. Okay? Some of you don't like to do it this way. Instead of minusing, you like to add. Then you divide. Up to you. All right, if you prefer using addition instead of using subtraction, in this case, it is perfectly fine. Okay. All right. So question 15, if you understand that it's a number pattern, it should be quite straightforward. I think the difficulty that students have is not understanding that this could be visualized as a number pattern question. If you did it in another method, it's fine. In fact, got students tell me that year, sure, I went to list all the way to 198. Can. You will realize that in this case, 198 is not very difficult to list because the number is quite small. 28 is a relatively small number to list. So you could have gotten the answer correct by listing 2. For 2 marks, is it worth it to list? Yes. It's a paper 2 question. You can use calculator. It is definitely worth it to list. But to get your listing correct, your understanding of the diagram at first has to be correct. Otherwise, you will list wrongly anyway. Okay.